All right, so we're going to start the council meeting for Tuesday, December 15th, 2020 at 7:02 p.m. Calling it to order. The next order of business is to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. So let's say the Pledge of Allegiance together. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic
for which it stands,
one nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. All right, we have our sixth council person here. Hi, Heather. I want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. This is our last meeting of 2020. Our next meeting will be on the 5th of January, and that's our organizational meeting. We have to have it within the first week or so. And that'll be a reminder later, but I just thought I'd throw that out there. Okay, so our next order of business is the roll call. Mr. Antel.
Present.
Mr. Bartko.
here.
Mrs. Miller.
Here.
Thank you. Mrs. Davis.
Here.
Thank you. Mr. Fenn.
Here.
And Mr. Poliak.
Here.
Okay, thank you. Next order of business is the approval of the agenda. I need a motion to adopt the agenda as presented to this council.
I'll make a motion to adopt as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Antel. Do we have a second on that?
And I'll second it.
Thank you, Bob. All right, Mrs. Klingenberg.
Mr. Antel,
Yes.
Mr. Bartko,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller,
Yes.
Mrs. Davis. Did I
I think
miss
we
her?
lost her.
She,
Yeah, maybe she'll come back on.
I'll skip to Mr. Fenn.
Yes.
and Mr. Poliak.
Yes.
Okay, and she was here, but
Yeah, so
She lost
Well,
connection.
yeah, I seem to have lost her here on the participant list. Okay, so the motion passes anyway. We have, we needed 5 to,
There she is.
there she is.
she's back. Okay.
She's muted. Okay, she's unmuted, so call her name.
Mrs. Davis.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Mr. Poliak, do we have anyone who would like to speak in the open forum?
No one at this time, Mayor. And everybody who's participating is knows the drill.
Okay, all right. All right, then our next order of business is some motions that I have. And we'll just appoint all these people at one time. And let me get the correct version here because we had a couple of last minute additions to the list that I hadn't heard back from people, but we have them and I have them added in here on my list. So you would have received a list here, but here are the motions that I have. For the CRA Housing Council, I have Michael Bush. The term would start January 1 of 2021 and run until 12/31 of 2023. The same for Chris Koblenz for the CRA Housing Council. Would run from January 1 of 2021 to December 31st of 2023. Those are 2-year terms. The Cemetery Trustees, we have Carol Fenn, who's recuperating, I understand, nicely.
Mm-hmm.
And she is from knee surgery. I don't know if that was a secret, so you can blame me if it was. Okay. So Carol is appointed from January 1 of 2021 to December 31st of 2026. Those are 5-year terms. On the Board of Zoning Appeals, we have Ted Chandler, who would like to continue on in that position. He was being appointed from January 1st, 2021 to December 31st of 2024. That's a 3-year term. Okay. We also have, to the Planning Commission, we have a new member, Mark Pennington. He's being appointed from
No, thanks.
January 1st, 2021 to December 31st of 2026. And that too is a 5-year term. Our long-standing since 2004 member on the Planning Commission is probably going to be moving to Arizona here in the next few months. And so we talked about that and decided we probably would move forward and appoint someone new to that board. And Mr. Pennington is, as asked before, and so I've asked him to join. And finally, the Recreation Advisory Commission, we have Amanda Nicely, who will serve from January 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2023, the 3-year term. So, I'm sorry. Is that 3 year? Yeah, I guess 3-year term.
Yeah.
All right.
Mayor,
So those are all my nominations. Yes, Mrs. Klingenberg?
I need to make a couple of just verifications, if you don't mind, for the
Yes.
minute. Michael Bush and Chris Koblenz are 3-year terms,
Oh, yes.
and Carol Fenn is a 6-year term. Ted Chandler's position is a 4-year term. Mark Pennington is a 6-year term, and Amanda Nicely is a 3-year term, just so that Natalie gets them straight in the minutes. That's all.
Okay. All
Okay?
right. Thank you.
Mhm.
All right, so those are my nominees. Do we have a motion to accept them?
I'll make a motion to accept.
Thank you,
Second,
Heather.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Antel. All right, so we have a motion and a second. Betty, if you would.
Mrs. Davis,
Yes.
Mr. Antel,
Yes.
Mr. Poliak,
Yes.
Mr. Fenn,
Yes,
Mrs. Davis. Wait, no,
Called her once, Janet Miller.
Mrs. Miller and Mr. Bartko. I'm not
Yeah.
sure who I repeated because I was going from a different line.
Yes.
Okay, sorry,
Okay, Janet Miller and then Bob Bartko.
I got,
Yeah.
yes, I got them.
Okay, all right. So the motion passes and those people will be serving in those particular year periods on those committees and commissions and councils. So thank you very much. We'll go on now to ordinances. We sort of jumped ourselves ahead there. If the ordinance that you have says 3rd reading on it, this is actually tonight, the 2nd reading of ordinance 2020-12-27. It is an ordinance declaring the improvements to certain real property within the village to be a public purpose, describing the public improvements to be made to directly benefit such parcels, exempting such improvements from ad valorem real property taxation, requiring the owner of the improvements to make the service payments in lieu of ad valorem real property taxes, and establishing a municipal improvement tax increment equivalent fund for the deposit of the service payments in lieu of ad valorem property taxes, all pursuant to sections 5709.40, 5709.42, and 5709.43 of the Ohio Revised Code, or as we call it, just the Revised Code. Okay, so that is a 2nd reading. I believe at finance, well, I don't know. Are we going to, well, first we need a motion to suspend the 3 reading rule.
I'll make a motion to suspend.
Thank you, Bob. Do we have a second?
Can't
Muted, Don.
You're on mute, bud.
Don.
Sorry.
Just a point of clarification, Marshall, do we need to suspend the rules if we're just providing a 2nd reading?
We do not. We
Okay.
may, and believe we should carry this over to the 3rd meeting,
Okay.
such that we are able to provide the required 30-day notice to the
Okay.
the school district. Although they are getting 100% of the proceeds that they will be entitled to, we are still required to give them a notice. We have given that, so we can't properly consider this until January. Well, until our January meeting. I
Okay.
believe we served the school's notice on November 24th, November 25th, right before Thanksgiving.
Correct. All right, so all right, so
Some question?
your question,
I've been studying this ordinance and I have some questions for you.
well, this, okay.
Does
In
it,
order to discuss it, I believe we need to
council
suspend
ask
the
you
rules.
questions?
I'll let the solicitor answer that question.
Yeah, that's up to you, Mayor, right? If you'd like to discuss it, we can. But
This is
It's
the
up to you.
second reading of this ordinance. I thought council has, just discusses this.
I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, I have a question. Where this site plan is for, this TIF, I have one important question. It's in the Heinz Hill overlay,
Yes, it is.
and according to the Ohio Revised Code 5709.40, it says that a TIF can only be made if the property is a blighted area.
Okay.
Is Heinz Hill a blighted area?
That's
We
for,
will-
Okay.
That's up for council to determine in making its decision with respect to this legislation. So if council determines that it is, then we would satisfy the requirements of the Ohio Revised Code.
Marshall, I looked up Ohio Revised Code 5709.40, and under here, it's not up to council. It's 5709.40 under Ohio Revised Code under Section 5, small letter F, as certified by the engineer for the political subdivision, which is Boston Heights, the public infrastructure serving the district is inadequate to meet the development needs of the district as evidenced by a written economic development plan or urban renewal plan for the district that has been adopted by the legislative authority of the subdivision. Okay, Marshall, I'm not a lawyer, so explain to me what that means.
So what I believe you're talking about is subsection 5 that defines what an incentive district is. And what the Ohio Revised Code requires is that one of the A through G requirements, one of those requirements be applicable.
So does Brian Gurrock have to write up that it's a blighted area?
He does not have to if one of the other subsections apply.
So it's up to council to decide if it's a blighted area.
Correct.
Okay, originally this was a big part of the Heinz Hill overlay. And when the Heinz Hill overlay was made, it was said to be the gateway to the Metro Park, and the Heinz Hill overlay site is in the middle of Boston Heights, right in the middle of Boston Heights. Is that a blighted area? I'm just asking council. If this area is blighted, then what about the rest of Boston Heights? I'm just asking. And the only reason that they can get a TIF on this site is if the property is determined to be a blighted area. And
Hey, Bob.
Yeah, right.
yes,
Two quick things. One, National Park. Second is that I'd like to remind council that directly across the street from this parcel, over the last month, the Public Nuisance Abatement Board met and determined that the next door was actually a public nuisance. Let's take into account that this area does require some needs, and it's up to council then that we can make our determinations on on what's blighted and what's not, or if any of the other criteria meets the need for the TIF.
Yeah, as Mr. Poliak points out, literally the building across the street from this parcel has been condemned by the village's nuisance abatement board. But the village's, like our nuisance abatement board, has determined that the building across the street from this parcel is a public nuisance and should be torn down.
Marshall or
I'm sorry?
Don.
And let me tell you this, one of the elements of determining whether or not that building across the street, the Norwood Inn, was a public nuisance or constitutes a public nuisance is it's the third section of the different types of public nuisances that exist in the village. The third element is that the building has a blighting influence on the neighboring properties. And that is precisely what the village codified ordinances and the Ohio Revised Code state, and the village's nuisance abatement board has concluded and issued an order to the landowner at the Norwood Inn property that its property does in fact constitute a blighting influence on the neighboring properties.
So that makes this site a blighted area.
I'm saying that's up to council, and it's any one of A through G elements that would allow the property to be TIF'd, and that's up to council to determine. But that would certainly be one that, from my perspective, would apply or could apply.
Okay, I have another question. On this site that they're planning to build, it does have city water and a sewer in it, doesn't it? I'm asking.
You would know as much as I would on that issue.
Don?
It
You're
is
on the
available.
Commission, is
What?
it?
It is available.
It's
Mr.
available.
Martin.
So this property does have city water and sewers?
It is available, yes.
Yes. The vast majority of Boston Heights doesn't have city water and sewers. So making this as a blighted area, that makes all of Boston Heights a blighted area.
I would disagree with that, but
Okay.
I would disagree with that, but
I'm
you're
li-
entitled to your opinion.
I'm listening.
I would disagree with it as well,
Why do you disagree with me, Don?
because the statement that you made, I don't believe is true.
What isn't true?
Your statement that if we were to make a determination on that parcel, that all of a sudden we would be making a determination on the entire community. I don't believe that that is true. I also don't believe that it is true that the vast majority of our community does not have access to sewer and water. I believe those to be factually, both of them to be absolutely not true.
Does the ledges have city water in it? Do they have sewers?
If you took the percentage, Bob, of residences in Boston Heights,
I'm-
including Ashbrook,
Yes,
and Wooded View, and down Old Aid and Wallers Road on the north end of the village, you would find the percentage of houses involved there is above half the households in Boston Heights. And no, the Ledges does not have, that Ledges only has 27 houses. So next time you want to find out, we can do the research. If you come up and ask, we can find how many have water and how many have sewer and the whole thing like that. But yeah, to say that the vast majority don't have it, that's not true.
does a home, what's called the northwest quadrant of Boston Heights, do they have sewers?
They have water, yes.
They have
We're looking
water,
at-
do they
They don't
have
have,
sewer?
they don't have sewer, and frankly, as a part of this project, and as a part of the legislation that you have in front of you, we would look at being able to provide them sewer. Without this, there would be
Which is the whole
virtually
reason.
no
that-
chance.
The whole
Virtually no
reason why we
chance.
would do that is to be able to provide these amenities to the community.
That's right.
Or you can ship the money down to the county and not provide the amenities to the community. I would disagree with that. I think that we should do this. I'm in favor of this. I think it allows us to be able to provide those amenities to upgrade the area and those amenities for our village. And there'd be a huge benefit for the community, without question.
Well, the reason I'm saying this, and I know I'm a bad guy, because the money would go to Boston Heights, but the idea of giving this company, which still remains anonymous, it's like a carrot or an incentive to build in this blighted area. And
What incentive are you talking about? I'm not sure I understand what you're saying.
the tip.
The TIF,
tip.
non,
A tip to this company that's building in this site would be an incentive to build on this
Mr.
site.
Barco, I would invite you to actually read the legislation, because nowhere in the legislation does it at all indicate that a single penny is going to the development. Not a single penny. If we pass this legislation, not a single penny, not a dime, not a nickel, not a dollar, not $100, not $1,000, not $1 million goes to the company that is going to build on this site. So to the extent that you think that this benefits in some way, fashion or form, the corporation, the developer that's going to build on this site, you would be mistaken. And I would invite you to tell me where in the legislation you think that it does in fact benefit them.
Okay, Mark, let me ask you this. Then why aren't they just paying regular taxes like we do?
They are. They are writing the exact same check that they would, regardless of whether or not we pass this legislation or they don't pass this legislation. Let's just say that they build $40 million worth of investment in this property, and that generates, let's say, $500,000 in new property taxes.
Okay,
Let's say it's $500,000. They have to write, starting in year, they would have to write the check in 2022 because they spend $40 million next year to build the building. So in 2022, they have got to write a check for $500,000.
okay.
If we pass this legislation,
Right.
$500,000,
It goes to some
they still,
account, doesn't
the
it?
company still has to write a check for $500,000.
Okay.
They don't get a refund. They don't get a rebate. They don't get a dime of that $500,000 back. It's called a payment in lieu of taxes.
Right.
And what
I
happens is
understand
we
that.
receive that money, and if you divide that $500,000, we give the schools 100% what they would have if we didn't
Right.
pass this, and then we take the rest.
I
So it
understand.
roughly breaks down
You
to,
don't understand, Bob.
For
I
the
don't answer that
purposes,
question.
for specific purposes of investment into the neighborhood.
only so long as it has a nexus to the project.
Right.
And so it's
Right.
infrastructure expenses that relate as an impact because of this project. So we will be able to spend money as it relates to the trails that would be impacted because we have to move the trails, because if we have to install new traffic signals, if we have to install a roundabout,
If
because we
we
have to
have to-
repay the local roads. There is a list 3 pages long of things that could have a actual nexus as a result of, as a ripple effect, if you will, because of this project. None of the dollars that come out of this legislation go back to the company at all.
I understand it doesn't go back to the company, but why would they pay into a TIF instead of paying regular taxes if it doesn't cost them any? Why?
The county,
Why would they pay into a TIF
the
if
schools
it's
get
the same amount of money? And the school system, Hudson school system, still retains 100% of the tax money. So
No.
why are they paying into a TIF?
So
What's
the-
their incentive to pay into a TIF instead of paying like regular
There is-
tax?
there is no incentive. As we stated earlier, this is not an incentive for the developer.
I'm not saying,
There are zero economic development incentives being offered to the developer here. And what you're asking is what the TIF does is it changes those property taxes into something that's called a payment in lieu of taxes. So it's the exact same dollar amount,
right,
except it's a property tax, except
that pays into a fund.
that's correct. And then the village is in charge of distributing that fund. And
Okay.
we distribute it under the exact same formula that exists currently for property taxes as it pertains to the schools. And then the village takes what it should normally take. And then for the percentage that's left over, we will also take that for purposes of building infrastructure.
Well, wouldn't the village get that if they paid like regular taxes?
They would not.
Why?
We get, we're going to be in round numbers, we get approximately 6% of every dollar that's paid, 6.5% that's paid in property taxes for every dollar that's paid.
Right,
This would enable us to take approximately somewhere between 25 and 30% of that same dollar. Essentially, what we're taking is the county's share to underwrite infrastructure development that has a nexus to the project.
so instead of the county getting the money, Boston Heights would get the money.
That's right. The only people that are losing out on this is the county government. And instead of this $500,000 being spread across the county in expenses and in the general fund, it gets spent right here in Boston Heights for the village
Projects we need.
in relation to the project and the infrastructure that the village is going to need as a result of this development.
And so the county of Summit doesn't get any money because the village determines that wherever this company is, it's still anonymous. This property is blighted and they're paying into a TIF.
That's correct.
And the people that suffer is the Summit County.
The people that don't live in Boston Heights,
Right.
you know,
Just,
the people in
Bob?
Hudson, the people in Bath, the people in.
But there's no
in-
suffering because there's nothing there. The payments are the same now.
Right.
There's
well,
only
this is-
additional. There's only additional.
and every community that does development, Bob, has this very same option and uses it. So if
Yeah,
you
no one
did
at
a
the-
little
no one at the-
research, you'd know that.
No one at the county has called and complained. No one, at the county executive's office has called and said this is a problem. No one in the fiscal office has called and said this is a problem. This is public policy that the General Assembly determined many years ago, right? The folks in Columbus, our state representatives, determined many years ago, this is a good idea in order to help local communities just like ours in situations just like this pay for infrastructure needs that develop as a result of a project. It's a new development.
Correct.
And the counties simply don't have a say in it.
Okay. Like I
And-
said,
and-
I just,
And if we don't pass it, and if we don't pass it, and a vote against this proposal is a vote to send $500,000 a year down to Akron, as opposed to being able to spend it here in Boston Heights.
Right. There's no guarantee we'd get any of that money back, Bob.
Why does it go to
Spend
the
here.
city of Akron?
It doesn't go to the city of Akron, it goes to the county, that's where the county
That's
seat
what you
is.
said. It goes to the city of Akron.
Yeah, Bob. That's
Oh,
where,
you
that's
know-
where the county seat is. That's where the county executive's office is. So it's a political figure of
It goes to
speech.
the town.
It would go to the county, that's right.
Okay,
Whose county seat is in Akron.
okay.
God, people, we went through all of this last meeting. Everything. We discussed all this last meeting.
Right, Ron, that's why there's 3 readings. I've been looking this stuff over, like I said, it's pages long of legal stuff. I'm not a lawyer. I'm trying to decipher this stuff. I'm trying to read it and decipher this stuff. I have some questions. And
Mr. Barco, I would invite you, and I've given you my cell phone, and we've had meetings before. I would invite you to call me in between meetings. I'm happy to go through all of this. I'm happy to point out the Ohio Revised Code, any of those things. Happy to show where the state is involved, how the county's involved. Happy to meet with you. Happy to meet with you tomorrow, any day between now and our next meeting. Happy to sit down with you and go through this.
Okay. I have one other question. This TIF that we're giving this unknown company is for 30 years. And Don Polyak, at the last meeting, you said this was a normal thing to give 30 years. I'm reading in section.
I said it was common. I
Yes,
said
that's
it was
exactly.
common.
Yeah, that's exactly right. He
30
said it's
years
common.
is the maximum. It's not, it's the maximum for a TIF.
Correct.
What's,
Mr. Barco, I'd just be very careful. I mean, if you're going to come at me in the public meeting, don't make up your own facts. Don't make up your own facts.
Decipher this
It's
stuff.
insulting. Don't make up your own facts.
Well,
I said that it's common because it is
at the
common.
last meeting that normal situations for this TIF for other communities surrounding us was 30 years. And I'm reading in section 2, I guess it's under this revised code, is that the maximum period is 30 years.
what's the question?
Is there
Now,
a
what is the
comment?
question?
Do-
You're already again saying, Mr. Barco, just on the record, you said just now again that this company that's coming in is getting that money, although we've all repeated to you several times tonight, that
Okay,
it comes to the village. And now you still don't seem to understand that part of it. And
Right.
you don't understand the fact that if you checked all the other communities around here, the very common method is you go for the maximum, 30 years. And all of them do that because they want to have money to take care of that infrastructure project that they're allowing to come into their community.
If I may, Mayor, Mr. Barco, one moment, Mr. Barco, what I would ask you, Mr. Barco, what I would ask you is that, again, we're going to assume that it's roughly $50,000, or I'm sorry, $500,000 a year. So would you rather have the village get $500,000 a year for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years? Or would you rather the village get $500,000 a year for the maximum allowed time period, which is 30 years? Which would you prefer?
I'm just saying, by the Ohio Revised Code, this is for a blighted section. And I don't believe this is a blighted section. That's my opinion.
That's your
Good
opinion.
opinion.
Thank you.
All right.
That's my opinion.
Good.
All right. Are there any
Can
other
we
questions?
move on?
Are there any other questions? If not, this is going to third reading on January 5th, 2021. Everyone agree with that?
Yes.
Okay. All right, we will go on now to ordinance 2020-12-30. This is the first reading. An ordinance approving the editing and the inclusion of certain ordinances as parts of the various components of the codified ordinances of Boston Heights, Ohio, and declaring an emergency. I first need a motion to suspend the 3 reading rule.
I'll make a motion to suspend.
Thank you, Janet. Do we have a second?
I'll
I'll
second.
second.
Okay, Mr. Antel? I
Sure.
believe.
Yeah.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Antel,
Yes.
Mr. Poliak,
Yes.
Mr. Fenn,
Yes.
Mrs. Davis,
Yes.
and Mr. Bartko.
Okay, motion to suspend the 3 reading rule has passed. We will now move on to a motion to adopt ordinance 2020-12-30. I have a motion to adopt.
I so move.
I'll second.
Mr. Finn and Mr. Antel. Okay. Do we have any discussion?
The only thing I will remind you, this is the end of the year normal procedure that we do with Walter Drain.
So all the ordinances we've passed during the year become codified in the by Walter Drain. That's what this is for. Do we have any other questions? Seeing none, we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Mr. Fenn,
Yes.
Mr. Antel,
Yes.
Mr. Bartko,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller,
Yes.
Mrs. Davis,
Yes.
and Mr. Poliak.
Yes.
Motion carries, becomes ordinance 2020-12-30. We now move to a resolution. Resolution 2020-12-49 is a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into the contract with the Summit County Public Defender's Office and declaring an emergency. First need a motion to suspend the 3 reading rule in order to consider this.
I'll make the motion to suspend the rules for consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Polyak. Do we have a second?
I will second.
Thank you, Mrs. Davis. Roll call.
Mr. Poliak,
Yes.
Mrs. Davis,
Yes.
Mr. Bartko,
Yes.
Mr. Antel,
Yes.
Mr. Fenn,
Yes.
and Mrs. Miller.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Motion to suspend the 3 reading rule has carried or passed. I would now ask for a motion to adopt resolution 2020-12-49.
I'll make a motion to adopt.
Okay, thank you.
I'll second.
Janet, I want to point out to you that this is something that we need to move forward on. This is something we do every year. Public Defender's contract. And of course,
I mean, did you think I had a question about that?
I just want to explain a little bit before and see if there is a question. We passed this
Okay.
every year, but what I was going to say to you is they got it to us sort of extremely late, as they kind of usually do. And it's really due down there is soon. So we don't really have time to do 3 readings on this. We need to get it passed so that we can be on the docket to be part of the Public Defender's contract. Are there any other questions? Okay. So we had a motion made by Mr. Antel, seconded by
Janet.
Janet Miller. Okay. Janet, do you have another question?
I didn't have a question.
Okay, thank you. All right. So I just wanted to make that clear about the fact that we need to move forward with it. If there are no other questions, let's go to roll call.
Mr. Antel,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Poliak,
Yes.
Mr. Bartko,
Yes.
Mr. Fenn,
Yes.
and Mrs. Davis.
Yes.
Motion carries, becomes resolution 2020-12-49. Thank you very much. Let's move on to resolution 2020-12-52. This is a resolution authorizing the fiscal officer to proceed with the renewal of the medical insurance with Medical Mutual Cozy through Love Insurance Agency Incorporated, effective January 1st, 2021 through December 31st, 2021, and declaring an emergency. We first need a motion to suspend the 3 reading rule in order to consider this.
I'll make,
Okay, who made?
I'll second.
it was
Okay.
Dave for first
Mr.
one.
Antel made the motion
Yes.
and Mr. Poliak seconded. Roll call, please.
Yes. Mr. Antel,
Yes.
Mr. Poliak,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller,
Yes.
Mrs. Davis,
Yes.
Mr. Fenn,
Yes.
and Mr. Bartko.
Yes.
Okay, motion to suspend has passed. And ask for a motion to adopt Resolution 2020-12-52.
I'll make a motion to adopt.
Thank you, Mrs. Davis. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I'll second.
I think Mr. Antel was first. But thank you, Janet. All right, we have a motion to adopt. Do we have any questions?
If I could I have the floor for just a moment to explain
Sure.
how this process worked this year? We've gone through the form fire with all the employees that do carry the insurance with us, and that gives them permission, Love Insurance, to go out for bid. This is the best bid. It was the employee premium is 15% more than it was last year. Some are 20%. We're getting 15. Now, bear in mind, when we go out with Love Insurance, we want the same coverage that we have. We don't want your employees to suffer by not having good hospitalization. Every one of them is very grateful that we do have good insurance for them. As a member of COSI, we are part of a self-insured and preferred risk pool for small employers. So we are put into that pool. And the one thing that we do is that we carry this insurance, if they get a reimbursement plan that we offer them to help defray their medical costs up to a limit, whether they're single or married. Now, we currently have 12 full-time employees that carry the medical insurance plan. Medical Mutual gave us a 30% reduction of premium for December, which was very nice. This was passed on to the employees. So for a month, they did not have to pay any of their percentage or contribution rate. So that's just kind of my report on how we came about to wanting to request this be renewed.
Thank you, Mrs. Klingenberg. Are there any other questions? Seeing none, we have a motion by Mrs. Davis, second by Mr. Antel. Roll call.
Mrs. Davis,
Yes.
Mr. Antel,
Yes.
Mr. Fenn,
Yes.
Mr. Bartko,
Yes.
Mr. Poliak,
Yes.
and Mrs. Miller.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Motion passes, becomes Resolution 2020-12-52. Move on to the mayor's report. I only have a couple items. One is review of the 2021 committees for council. You received this a couple times electronically. I'm just going to go briefly through it. If anyone has a question, sort of stop me after each section, and we can, if someone wants to change or something like that. But I have received no calls from anyone on council that they want to change any of their committees. So I'll start out. Section 1, the Finance Committee for the year 2020 will consist of the following council members. And normally we do this, we don't really appoint the President Pro Tem, but that President Pro Tem is always on the Finance Committee. And that appointment will be the first resolution actually on the January 5th, 2021 agenda. So at this point, tentatively going with the way we had it last year, Don Poliak, Ron Fenn, and Ron Antel will would comprise this finance committee. Okay, moving on to section 2, the roads committee for the year 2021. Well, I'm sorry, these are all, yeah.
Yeah, this is last.
2021 shall consist of the following council members: Ron Fenn, chairman, council members Bob Bartko and Don Poliak. I don't hear any changes. So moving on to section 3, Public Safety Committee for the year 2021 shall consist of the following council members: Ron Antel, chairman, council members Heather Davis and Ron Fenn. Furthermore, Heather Davis shall be the village liaison to the Valley Fire Department. I think that may occur rotationally, so I'm not sure, but that's in there. So if at any time you want to make a change in that, let me know. We'll get it done before the January 1st or January 5th, 2021 meeting. Section 4 is a Lands and Buildings Committee for the year 2021 shall consist of the following council members: Janet Miller, chairperson, and Bob Bartko and Don Poliak, committee members. Section 5, Cemetery Committee for the year 2021 shall consist of the following council members: Ron Fenn, chairman, council members Ron Antel and Janet Miller. And finally, well, no, not finally. Section 6, the Community Development Committee for the year 2021 shall consist of the following council members: Janet Miller, chairperson, council members Heather Davis and Don Poliak. All right, so those are the village council committees. The village commission appointments, the Board of Zoning Appeals appointee from council for the year 2021 shall be Don Poliak. And the Planning Commission appointee from council for the year 2021 shall be Don Poliak. Section 9, that the Board of Nuisance Abatement shall consist of Mayor Bill Gonsi, Fire Chief Charlie Riedel, the Zoning Inspector Arthur Schmidt, and Council President Pro Tem Don Poliak. President Pro Tem shall serve as the chairman of the board. Fiscal Officer Betty Klingenberg shall serve as the secretary. Section 10, all prior resolutions and ordinances that relate to or in any way conflict with this measure are hereby repealed and rescinded. Section 11, this resolution shall be effective retroactively as of January 1st, 2021. Because we're going to be passing it on January 5th. Section 12, this is that this council hereby finds and determines all the formal actions relative to the adoption of this resolution were taken in open meeting of this council, and that all deliberations of this council which resulted in formal action were taken in meetings open to the public, full compliance with the applicable legal requirements, including section 121.22 of the Ohio Revised Code. And finally, section 13, this resolution is hereby declared to be an emergency measure necessary for the immediate preservation of the public peace, health, safety, and for the further reason this measure is necessary in order to ensure the daily operation of the village departments, and shall take effect and be enforced from and after its passage. All right, so that's the one item that we will be voting on in the first organizational meeting of 2021. The only other thing I wanted to point out to you is I just received today, it came from Dominion Gas, Dominion Energy's gas, that because of the automated meter reading technology now is throughout the service territory of Boston Heights and other areas of Northeast Ohio. The technology enables Dominion to read these meters monthly, and PUCO has allowed them to apply apply for a cost recovery charge. And they had to file by November 30th, 2020. That was a pre-filing notice. And their estimated cost to the customer would be, will seek a cost recovery charge credit of 0.01. So that means 1/10 of a cent per month per customer. So I think that'll be kind of negligible for you to find on YouTube. But anyway, they sent that out. And that's all the news and items that I have to do. So now we will go on to the fiscal officer report.
I don't have anything.
Okay. The Safety Committee Valley Fire District, is there anything new there to report?
Nothing from me.
No.
No, okay. Roads Committee, Cemetery Trustees.
On the cemetery, where the Cemetery Association is looking into erecting a little sign above the Garden of Angels gateway, like a gateway sign that says Garden of Angels. And I've sent Buddy a copy of that. Hopefully she got that. You got it? Okay. Because there may be some NOPEC money available for that, but it will be purchased by the Cemetery Association and installed at no cost to the village.
Okay, thank you, Ron. Is it sort of resembles the same kind of arch that we have
Looks
over the,
just like the Fairview sign, except it's a little smaller and it says Garden of Angels.
okay. Thank you very much. That's all you have then?
That's it.
We'll move on to lands and buildings.
I have nothing.
Thank you, Janet. How about economic community development?
I don't have anything new, unless you do.
I don't, other than what everybody on this committee.
You're on the same page.
Okay. Planning Commission, BZA. Anything new to report?
Nothing to report.
Okay, because we did not have a meeting in December, correct?
Right.
Right. Okay. And we will move on to the engineer. I don't know, is Brian on?
No, he wasn't coming in tonight.
Oh, okay. So you should have got mailed out to you his
He had
report.
nothing to report.
Oh, he handed it out last finance council meeting, right? Okay. So as I reminded you at the beginning of the meeting, council meeting of the organizational meeting will be 1/05/2021. Is there any new business for tonight? Any old business? And then I know of no need for an executive session. So at 7:55, I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Mr. Antel. We have a second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Ron Fan. All right, and we usually do not do a roll call by that. We just do it by a show of hands or a voice.
There we go.
All those in favor? Adjourning? And it looks unanimous to me. So we are adjourned at 7:55. And Mr. Poliak, you will decide how long you need before finance starts.
We're going to start it right now, and we're gonna get it to move, guys. So we're going to go ahead and call to order the Tuesday, December 15th, 2020 Village Boston Heights Finance Meeting. It will be called to order at 7:56. And for the record, I'd like to reflect that all members of the Finance Committee are present and all members of Council are present. I'm going to kind of move through this. I think that the most important thing that we do tonight is we set the Council agenda for January 5th. And due to the fact that basically all other matters of business have been handled in tonight's Council meeting, including Mayor's report, Fiscal Officer's report, and Council Committee reports. Any objections in the Finance meeting if I go ahead and move that right into the into setting the council agenda?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. All right. But and just to be clear, Betty, Mayor, you have nothing in addition to what you've already provided within the council meeting. All right.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. So it looks like tonight's we're going to be setting a council agenda for January 5th. What are we going to run that? We'll probably run that at 7 o'clock as normal. Mayor, you'll set up and we'll make sure that this is also a Zoom meeting in the same format that we've been providing.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So we'll be approving minutes, the December council meeting minutes of tonight and of last week on the 8th. We will be hearing a resolution we'll be electing a pro tem for the Village of Boston Heights. We will be hearing an ordinance, a third reading on the TIF. So again, I would take up Marshall on his offer to, in between now and that meeting, to spend some time with him clarifying any other questions that people might have around the TIF, so we have absolute clarity on what we're voting on and the direction that it needs to move. Looks like we have two resolutions. Resolution, let's see, designating the members to the council committees and commissions, and a resolution expressing the village's intent to sell some property. Can anybody speak on that right now? What properties are included in that?
It's an annual one that we have to do every year, so we can have auctions.
Right. It's not, right now, there's not necessarily a list on, but there will be things we want to dispose of as the year goes on. So we pass this at the beginning, and then as the time comes, if we want to list it on Gov Deals or whatever approved listing as, we can do that.
Perfect. Perfect. All right. All right. That looks like the ordinances and resolutions that we'll be dealing with on the 5th. Taking a look here. Looks like that would be, as of right now, that is all the areas of business. Anybody, any other members of finance that have any questions or any input that they'd like to provide here on this last meeting of the year?
None for me.
No.
All right. Thanks everybody for your service to the community. It's always fun for serving with everybody here, and you know, usually we are able to celebrate that. This year we're obviously not, but I don't think that it takes away from the fact that we all have a calling and to help serve on the community. And I've always appreciated everybody's level of service to our neighborhoods. So thank you, everybody. And with that, we'll go ahead and adjourn the finance meeting. And everybody have a wonderful, wonderful holiday. We'll see you on the 5th of January.
So we're adjourning at 8:01. So that makes it a 5-minute meeting. Congratulations, Don. That's one of our.
I think that's a record.
Around, yeah.
You
So,
did good, Don.
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, everyone.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Okay.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Mayor, I moved you over.
All right, we're doing that. And you made me the host, okay? Sounds good, thank you.
All right. All right. Thanks, guys.